Hi everyone, I'm Paul Silla and welcome to the mink farm. So it really isn't a mink farm, but it used to be back in the 50s. Now it's a garage and we're in the process of renovating it into a dream car garage, workspace for my business, and an art studio. So recently I hit 50 subscribers on my YouTube channel. I know it's not much, but I wasn't expecting anybody to like my amateur videos. So thank you for subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. So I want to take this opportunity to tell you a bit about myself, give you a bit of background, and let you know what's happening here at the mink farm, in name only, and in particular, the Nespresso art that I'm currently working on. So I am in my 50s. I'm a huge Formula One fan. Been watching it ever since I was a kid, but started watching religiously since 1984. One of the cars that year was the Spirit Honda. That I just fell in love with that car. It had two rear wings. It was so cool. It wasn't the greatest car on the grid. It was actually a back marker, but I just thought it was just a neat car. And since then, I've been following Honda. I am a big Honda fan. So as you can see in the background, the Acura NSX built by Honda. If Honda is in Formula One, you know I'm cheering for them. And currently I'm cheering for them and the Red Bull team and the AlphaTauri team. So I'm hoping they win the championship this year. But anyways, enough of that. I am an amateur artist. I love to paint. I love to draw. My subjects are usually pin-ups and burlesque, and I know it's a little bit risque, my art, but I used to love painting. My media that I enjoyed the most is acrylic and even pencil crayons. So recently I was diagnosed with a slight case of macular degeneration in one of my eyes, which I have under control, and it isn't affecting my eyesight at all, so everything's okay. It's just that the last 10 years, I'm finding, ever since I turned 40, and now I'm over 50, my eyesight, I can't focus as much, hence the glasses now. I moved on to progressives, so painting and drawing in my sketchbook these days requires me to hold up a magnifying glass, and I'm just not finding it as enjoyable as I used to anymore. So I've been looking into creating art using a different material instead of paint and pencil crayons and pastels. And I stumbled onto Nespresso. I bought my first Nespresso machine back in 2010. The Latissima Plus. What a great machine that is. I still have it to this day and it works fantastic. And I remember the first week of making my coffee. You know, you put the pod in, you make your coffee. You actually grab the pod. They used to give you a little display box where you had your pods in, which I thought was so cool. So you would show your guests what coffee do you want, and they would pick a color. And you know, I used to look at the pods like all the time, and like, I gotta do something with these. Like this would be cool to do something. I Googled Nespresso art, and I saw a lot of creative stuff being used out of these guys. So I thought I gotta do something. So back then, my youngest daughter, she would have been 7 years old back then. She's now 18, and she's an artist also. She would be helping me clean out these pots. We would throw the grinds in the compost, and the pods we would keep. And I had them in my drawer since 2014, just doing nothing. I haven't, and I kept on saying, okay, I gotta throw these out. I gotta send them back. And then the pandemic hit, and I'm at home, can't do work, want to draw, but I can't. And I stumbled onto these pods again, kicking around in my basement, and decided, okay, now's the time. I got to do something out of these guys. The problem is there are so many colors. These are the colors you have to play with, and now you got to figure out what to do with them. And that's the hard part, because you have to collect certain amount of certain colors to be able to finish a piece. I'm currently working on my fourth piece, and I've got a miniature Nespresso recycling station here at the mink farm. I have bags and bags of used pods that I'm currently collecting to try to get certain colors to use in my artwork. So this is the current Nespresso art piece I'm working on right now. It's Frida 2929. I'm recreating the infamous photo of Frida Kahlo from the cover of the Vogue magazine using 2,929 Nespresso pods. The count may change by the time I'm done, so the name might be changed also. If you guys seen my recent video of the planning stage, you'll see how I mapped it out. That was the easy part, although it did take a lot of time. This is the hard part, which is the assembly. To assemble is easy. It's actually to collect the pods is the hard part, because I need a certain number of a certain color, and it's hard to find, it's hard to collect. So it's taken, I'm at a bit of a standstill right now because I've ran out of the creme brulee pod, and I'm waiting for that. So until I get the creme brulee, I can't continue. I have pods ready to go to be assembled, but I can't continue. So my first Nespresso art piece is the Mona Lisa. The reason why I chose the Mona Lisa as my first piece was a couple of reasons. Number one, I had to use the pods that I already had collected. So I had a certain color that I already had. So I had to choose a piece of art, or I had to create a piece of art that actually matches the colors that I had. And the Mona Lisa actually matched pretty well. Also, because I was only using 468 pods, you really don't get a lot of detail. The detail is very limited. So I wanted to create something that, even though you don't get the detail, just by looking at it, the actual shape and the colors will let you know, oh, you can see it right away, that's the Mona Lisa sort of thing. So the beauty of the Nespresso art, it's really pixel art, is it's not like other art where you want to get close to see the detail. You actually see the detail when you go far away. So I find that pretty cool. The further you go, the more the art focuses in. And because of my eyes, it actually fit. It fit what I was doing. I don't have to go close. All I have to do is stand back and you see it, and actually go side to side. You actually see more detail than you would if you go up close to it. So like one of the videos that I like creating is actually going up close to an espresso piece that I've done and actually zoom out. Because in the beginning, when you see just a couple of pods together, you think, okay, what is that? But as you zoom out, your eye really develops that picture and you're like, wow. So it's pretty cool. So that's one of the reasons why I love the Nespresso art and how I choose the subjects. It's got to be something that you could relate to without adding a lot of detail to the piece. Now that piece, the Nespresso Mona Lisa, I just used the pod whole, and I just emptied out the pod and laid them side by side, and it gave you just a beautiful piece. You see actually the colors, because the pod is not manipulated. You actually see the color. I've been doing a lot of YouTube watching of different people make jewelry out of the Nespresso pods, and I find it fascinating how they manipulate the pod to make these beautiful works of art. So for my second Nespresso art piece, I did Girl with the Pearl Earring using 1,302 pods. Now, if I used them whole and I didn't manipulate the pod, that art piece would have been really big, and I have no wall to hang that on. So I had to think of a way of making the piece smaller, but also trying to get as much detail as I can in the piece. So thanks to the jewelry makers, the Nespresso pod jewelry makers on YouTube, they've taught me how to manipulate the pod. And one of the things they did was they cut it in half, and they pleated the smaller pod, and they made sort of like a rosebud out of that pod. So I thought, well, okay, that's cool. I could use the smaller part, so the piece would be roughly the same size as the Mona Lisa, using triple the pods, and I'll get the detail that I want. And the beauty is I could screw it down the middle, and then once you close the pot, it hides the screw. So it was great. That piece was actually done at the beginning of the pandemic. So if you watch that video and you've seen my fingernails, you'll notice that my daughters actually were bored and they painted my fingernails. And because I haven't left the house in 2 months, I didn't take it off. So you see it chipping off, and it was pretty rough looking. So I apologize for that now. But yeah, that's just to explain why there's nail polish on my fingers. The third Nespresso art piece that I did was actually a bit personal. It's a portrait of Dita Von Teese. Now, I'm a big fan of Dita Von Teese. I've met her a few times and gone to see her perform many times. She is actually a beautiful person to meet. She's very, very approachable, very nice. When I met her in New York City the first time, I had my tattoo of her on my leg, and I was actually too shy to show her, and I didn't. And when I went the year after to watch her perform, and I met her backstage, I actually got the courage to actually let her know that you know, I have a tattoo of you on my leg from my hip to my knee. And her response was priceless. She said, well, you got to show me. You're not leaving. Drop your pants. And I just thought it was so cool of her. She's just very down to earth. I'm a big fan. And so I decided to do that piece. I used the virtual line pods for that, which I've never done before. I stuck with the original line. I find it easier to work with. For the reason being, they're all the same size. The virtual line pods, they're all different sizes. So now how do I do it? I can't overlay it because it won't overlay unless I squish it. So I decided, okay, let me try. I'll squish the pods and I'll lay them down like you would roof shingles. And so I first had to create a map of the artwork. So I usually use Corel Draw. It's what I have. It's my my designing program for signs and truck lettering. So I used what I have, and I wanted to try to recreate one of her most famous pictures, but I wanted to recreate it in a style of Andy Warhol and Roy Lichtenstein. I wanted to use a lot of the primary colors. I wanted it very colorful, but I also wanted it to be a bit detailed. So I had to go a little bit close up on the face to try to get as much detail as I can. Now, it isn't detailed, but you get enough of the detail out of it as you pull back. So as you stand further back, you really do get the sense of the face, and you get the feel of the pop art, so of the Roy Lichtenstein and the Andy Warhol. So that was also an experiment, and I fell in love with that piece also. That's hanging up in my dining room. I'm very happy about that piece. And then it brings me to piece number 4, which is the Frida Kahlo. Frida Kahlo is one of my favorite artists. The reason why I love her art is her art actually shows a lot of pain. It actually bleeds. The picture that I've chosen to create the Nespresso art was an actual famous Vogue cover picture of her, that the actual colors in that picture just are beautiful. So to match the colors is easy. It's actually much easier, and but I'm using a lot of colors. So this piece actually is a little bit of a challenge because it is about 3,000. By the time I'm done, I'm sure I'm going to hit over 3,000 because I haven't calculated the Nespresso pods that I use to wrap the sides. So I'm sure it's going to be close or even a bit over 3,000 Nespresso pods using this piece. Now, using the original line pods, I'm actually able to use more pods to get roughly the same size as the Dita Von Teese portrait, but actually get more detail because the pods are a lot smaller. Now, from start to finish, from conception of my Nespresso art to completion, actually is a long process. It takes roughly 3 to 4 months per piece. So it's very labor intensive. This one more so, not because it's got more pods that I'm using, but also the way I'm doing the pods. I have to cut them in half, and then I have to pleat the pods, and then I have to crush them, and then there's a little hole in the middle that I have to plug the hole with a little piece of aluminum to make it look more uniform, and then assemble it. So it is a lot of work, from mapping the actual artwork to finish assembling. It's roughly 3 months. So I'm hoping to have this finished by the end of June. So, fingers crossed. I'd like to get the video done on that as well and post it as soon as I can. There is more pieces to come. So I do have other pieces that are in the works, and I'd like to move on to those pieces also. So subscribe to this channel so that you're up to date of what's going on. This way, when I do release the piece of Frida Kahlo, you could watch it right away. It'll be here. All right, so here is a bit of a close-up of how it looks like and what it looks like. So if you could see up close, you see how I pleated the pod, and also you see over there, like in the middle of the pod, how I put a little piece of the aluminum of the pod just to cover the hole when you pleat it. If you're a fan of Frida Kahlo, or if you know of Frida Kahlo's art, and if you've seen her art, the colors that she uses, the Nespresso art is actually very similar to the color that she uses, and it's very similar in feel of the tone of color. So I'm really loving how this piece is coming out so far. And I decided one of the greens that I was using, I decided to change my mind, and I'm using Virtualine Mexico. Mexico is the color of this green, or the flavor of this green. And the reason why I changed it to Mexico was a couple of reasons. I like the actual color of the green. And number two, just the fact that it's called Mexico actually suits the piece. So I decided, okay, you know what? I'll manipulate the Virtualine pod. I'll cut it to the same size as the original line, and I'll use it. All right, so the way I manipulate the pod to make it fit this piece is I actually cut the top half off, which is roughly about where this line ends. So I cut that all the way around, I cut it off, and then I squish that top part, and I put an original line pod over that, and I trim out the excess so it's the same size. But then what I do is I actually pleat the pod. I pleat it first, and then I squish it down, and you get this shape. And then what I do is I get an original line pod, trace it out, and then trim that also. So I get 2 out of 1 Mexico pod for this piece. Anything to try to stretch the material, because it is hard to, it is labor intensive to collect. And then the beauty of that is you get these 2 different style of pods. You get the pleated one, which is the body of the pod, and then you get the squished one, which is the top. And I love the fact that you get the little ends. You get these Nespresso logos randomly in the artwork. I love it. So you know that it's made out of Nespresso pods, which is pretty cool. I hope you like my artwork so far, and thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button to keep up to date with things that are happening right here at the Mink Farm. Cheers.